All right. Good evening, folks. Hopefully you're hearing us. Can anyone sound off in chat? If you can hear and see what is going on, that would be really handy. And yeah, it looks like from my computer, it looks like it's working, but there's a lot of things in TaleSpire that seem to work on my computer. So sound off. We can hear and see. Nice. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. Then, yeah, welcome to the next stream. We are going to be doing a bit of an update, and then we will be opening up to questions. Yes, general housekeeping business. If you want to ask a question, please proceed it with an exclamation mark and Q, as is written in the doobly thing down below us in the bar, and that will send it to be grabbed by a bot and taken off to our Discord, so we can answer it and it won't get lost in the noise. That'd be very cool. And yeah, we can kick off. So, starting with an update, I'm actually just going to have a sip of this thing, and then we'll talk what the haps have been, because there's been a lot going on. Yeah, so first off, amongst all the things we've been building, some of the questions that come up are very interesting. And one of the ones that was kind of floating around for a while as a concern was how we were going to be able to deliver all the things, seeing as it was quite a big list and quite a large roadmap, with the size of the team we have. So we don't ever want to just like overly react to things, like get ahead of ourselves and just do things. What's the right term? There's a great word for that has left my mind. So we've left these kind of things for a long time. But as we've started to experience those kind of issues, we've got to the point where we have started hiring a couple of people. This is a thing that has already been sorted out. So one of the things we've been doing in the background has been running around sorting some of this. So we are bringing on a couple of folks to help us out. The first person we're bringing on, we won't be mentioning names or introducing them today because it's still like probationary period and all that kind of thing. Things are being ironed out and settled and sorted still. So, but we hope all this is going to go through well. First person we'll be having on is a half-time person who will be basically helping us out, keep up with your feedback, because you folks have been amazing and have been firing bugs and feature requests by the plenty, and we haven't been able to keep up. Yeah, so there's a lot of bugs that we fixed and then the tickets never got closed, or there's like feature requests that we've actually delivered on, or it's just like there's duplicates and we haven't cleaned that up for you, and all that kind of stuff has been there, and the big feedback Hello Next site has got fairly occupied, and so that needs a cleaning. And also our roadmap is a weird mix right now of like tiny detaily things that don't matter for like that like there's one in particular to do with like WebRTC specifics that only really matters to me, so it doesn't need to be in there. It should be the overarching feature that's in there. And then there's some things that are just missing altogether that we've said, hey, we're doing this, but it's not on the roadmap. So this person's also going to be helping us out with that, which is fantastic. And yeah, it's really cool. The other person, so one of the things that happened over the course of the last year was we grew enough or existed long enough that we started noticing issues with Photon. Photon is the middleware that we've been using for the real-time communication in TaleSpire. So there's a bunch of kind of low-frequency stuff like the persistence where your boards are stored, and we handle all of that. But then there's that real-time stuff like what is the position of this dice this moment, and all that kind of stuff is synchronized using Photon. And that, yeah, we had some issues last year that got a bit scary because things would go down and we'd come to you and go, you would say it's gone down, and we'd go, yes. And that was as much as we could do. And so we want to be able to take care of more of that stack so we can actually do things for you when things happen. That was obviously going to be a big task. So last time we had one of these, I was saying like, all right, I guess we're going to be doing this. That's going to take a chunk of time. And that was a concern. Luckily, we're hiring a person with a lot more experience in that area, like in backend in general, than I have. And so we're going to have someone who will be taking care of that, which is going to free me up for more of the features that we've actually announced. And then also just having expertise on, we can both of us will be working on back-end things and yeah, just bringing more features, which is really exciting. We're already sitting down and road mapping things for that, which is dope. It's it's really fun, really fun. Can't wait to actually be showing some things from that stuff. But it is obviously very early. Hiring people is work that actually I don't know which direction Johnny's in on my machine, probably over there.
I'm
And
below you.
yeah, all right, okay. Like has been doing a lot of work on that. And so yeah, we have people, obviously we allow people to work remotely because all of us do, and we also have someone who is potentially emigrating to Norway, so getting all that kind of stuff done is business, and that has taken some time. So that's some of the time, yeah, that has taken and has meant less features, but also it means we can do more down the line. So it's it's an investment, which is awesome.
It's a good time to do it, I think now.
Hell
So.
yes, yeah, absolutely. That is the hiring update. So that is we'll be the short version is we're getting one half-time person working on a lot of community side things, and then one full-time person will be working on back-end stuff, and that should help us get to where we need to get, because this game stuff is pretty hard. Okay, then actually, Johnny, do you want to talk about the next item?
Yeah, certainly. So the next item we have on here is water tiles, because that's something that we posted an update about quite recently, about doing these resin blocky type things. In fact, if I switch to another window, let's see. Go here. I'm going to transition into that one. So this is an update page, which I'm sure you're familiar with, having played TaleSpire and stuff like that. And it features the water tiles. So this is pretty much ready to go in its first iteration. Now, there are certain problems with the water tiles, although most of it has been mitigated in the sense that we can fly a camera through it and it's okay. The problem is that it's a very cheap trick, which uses basically drawing the tile twice, which means that if you move on to something really close, it's going to be quite obvious that this is not actually a volume like the underneath of the water is. Those are things that we'll have to handle, I mean, a bit later, I think, as far as closer to the actual water solution. The other thing that is not in this update.
Shit, sorry, I've got computer issues.
Sure, that's perfectly fine.
I'm good at this.
Okay, I'm gonna put it back to our faces. The other thing that's not in this update is organic water shapes to make waterfalls and things like that. It's something I started experimenting with yesterday, and I think it's something we should be able to do using this same system. It just needs a bit of a tweak it needs another version of the shader basically to look good. But I'm hoping that's not too far away. So this is going to be released today. And it's just the singular tile, so 1x1 and a 2x2 normal tile, which is going to be a way to like check that stuff out and see how it works. There are certain things I expect there to be feedback on. The refraction value of the resin might be too high, making it a bit tricky. I'd love to get some feedback on that because it can reduce it. And also if there's other things that pops up. We've added a way to toggle between. In fact, I might be able to get that screen back here. Transition back. Yeah, so there's a toggle button up here now to toggle selectability. Because another problem we had was, of course, if you put something inside of the resin, and you're trying to pick it up in building mode, well, you couldn't pick up the stuff inside the resin, or you couldn't pick up the resin itself. So we added a toggler so that you can switch between the ability to pick up transparent objects basically inside of the build mode. So that's another feature that's been added in this update. The last part on this update was just the shadow offset bug that's I had multiple reports on for the office props and the skull on pike. So that should also go out in that update. And I'll be pushing this one out after the stream. let's see. So I'm going to take us back to the regular cameras. There we go. And yeah,
Yes.
we are good at this, right? Yes, so that was the water tiles. And if there's any questions about the water tiles, then feel free to ask those and we'll get back to it later.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We also just learned from the chat that if we ever need to delay a feature, we're just going to show you a small video of a dog, and and you'll be suitably distracted. Because no, I'm being an idiot. Okay, so because I'm seeing dog in the chat, so they must have appeared for some of the time. But I'm also looking at just our video feed. Right.
Sure.
What is the next haps? Next up, I've already seen a question about this as well, which is Mac support. That is well on its way. We are down to, again, similar situation to last time I gave an update, but things have progressed, but the same categories of issues still remain. We've got a few shader bugs, and we've got some performance things we really want to tackle before we kick this out the door. I am... just really nice in the chat. Hey, Risen, nice one. I am about to switch over to doing performance work as soon as I finish the AoE move thing that you folks have asked for. So you'll be able to grab an AoE and move it all in one go, which is cool. I've been messing around with it today. That is close. Like, I've nearly got the functionality finished. It's like nearly there, and then we just need a little bit of visual work, and yeah, that's kind of ready, which is nice, at least for a V1. Actually, Johnny, there's one thing that's not in our to talk about list, which we haven't shown off yet at all, but you had a video of from the other time, and you might want to have that.
Right. Okay. So I was actually going to get
for
to
a little bit later.
In case
okay,
there's probably going to be some questions about it, so we'll bring that in as an answer, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, if anyone's interested in like the specific, like the actual Cody specifics of what we need to do on macOS kind of stuff, feel free to ask. I don't want to like fill the stream with just tech info if that's not what people are here for. Yeah. So perf, shader bugs, and then there's some Steam stuff because we haven't shipped on multiple platforms so far. I mean, like, we're technically on Steam Deck, like we run under Proton, and people do play it on Linux. But we're not doing any work there, really. We just kind of try to make sure we don't break Linux builds via Proton. So as far as Steam's concerned, that's just Windows. So we haven't had to do any extra stuff so far. We want to do, obviously we need to produce a Windows build and a Mac build, and we want to share the assets between them. So there's some stuff in Steam to do with depots and things like this, which we've got to learn, and we will work that out so we can ship, which would be really cool. So that'll probably take a day or two to get used to. And not break stuff. Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, maintaining two builds of anything is a bit tricky. So
it comes
at least have the asset releases be like a one-time drop type of thing.
Totally. Yeah, one more build is just so much harder, or so much more room for screw ups. Okay.
Yes.
So the next thing, actually, I already talked about AoE move. That's coming well, so that's kind of already dealt with. Johnny, do you want to take?
Yeah, I do want to touch briefly on the hero creator, because the hero creator is something that we've now actively started working on, but it's a big task, and there's like three different challenges, or like there are three things that needs to come together to make it happen. It's sort of like the editor itself to be able to take a humanoid body and sort of morph it into things, and having armor pieces being generated to fit those morphs, like the technical aspects of the editor itself. And then there's the performance part of actually getting those pieces to work well in game. So baking out textures, being able to share those with other people so that they can generate the same assets on their side, and all of those things. And then there's the third thing, which is probably which is the biggest time consumer, which is actually filling this thing up with assets. Because every asset that we add you can sort of get a lot of stuff out of, but unless we have a lot of assets, it's going to be quite obvious really fast that all of the characters sort of look the same. So it's going to be quite a while, but I'm hoping that I can start posting some updates on this subject in the in devlogs, so that people can look at the progress. My only concern is that people are going to see stuff and think that it's going to be like that's done, because it is going to be a long path. But it has started, and it is something that we're actively working on now.
Hell yeah. So yeah, at some point we'll be able to go, editor's done, and
Sure.
you can't use it because there's no content. But that's going to be, but that is going to be huge.
And
really cool.
feel free to ask about that in questions as well if there's more specifics or want to know more about the challenges.
Yeah, there was another thing. Oh man, I just remembered and forgot in the space of 10 seconds something I wanted to talk about as well. But that doesn't matter for now. So I will go on instead to stuff that I will be doing. So AoE movement, we'll get that out. macOS support, I'm going to get my the performance and Steam stuff worked out, and then I'm switching immediately to mods. So the it's been a long time going, but yeah. So last time we mentioned that we were going to be doing stuff. We'll be hosting our own repositories on Mod.io. We are starting to play with that API now. So I was reading lots of SDK stuff yesterday, and the way we're going to tackle this, the first thing we're going to do is to get some experience with Mod.io is we are going to make an in-game slab search and uploader and browser and stuff like this. So we will have an official slab repository kind of thing. Concurrently with that, and for reasons I'll explain, we are going to try and design an API so that we can hook into community sites who host content like slabs, and be able to search them from inside the game as well. So if you're using Tails Tavern or if you're using Tails Bazaar, you should be able to add that as a repository in the slabs browser and then be able to search those as well. That's the goal. I'm going to try and do that concurrently. We'll see how it goes because this is like first time on this stuff. It could be easy, it could be really hard. I don't know. But that will give us experience with the API and just generally working some of that stuff out. The place we will start with actual mods is going to be, we're going to take Tailweaver and we're going to strip it down for just creatures. That's the kind of where I think our head was last time we were tackling this, which was so we want it like Tailweaver's a beastie. And so to be able to get you something faster, we're going to just pare it down to just something where you can make packs of minis and then ship those, and then we can explore this basically together. That's going to be the fastest path. So between that and then the creature creator coming along, we've got a lot of stuff for creatures, which is going to be a lot of fun because we've been talking about this obviously for a very long time. You guys have been incredibly patient. We just want to get it out. So that's been very nice. Yeah. So we are very aware that by having an official repository, that almost sends a message of like this is somehow more valid than the community things, which it is absolutely not. We could have done a slab site earlier and we really didn't want to or need to. The community has served that need so well, and we just want to make sure that integration is good, so we can keep that up. Like 100% support your local slab provider is what I'm saying, because community run mod sites are critical to the long-term safety and survival of a game, in my humble opinion. Yeah, especially if you have, we're going to be on Mod.io. Mod.io has their own rules and things about content, and if you break those, that isn't going to be there, and you might disagree with that. So maybe you want to host your stuff some other place, and we're going to try and make sure that is always possible. Yeah, so mods, keep the questions coming, and we will get to them. Johnny.
Yeah, so there was actually another point that I didn't put down here, which is just a small thing that is on the horizon, and that is being able to set the min and max height of a board, so that the in the future there's going to be a proper refactoring of the vertical bar that you have to the right side there, but at least one of the things that's going to be added now is that you will be able to hover over the diamonds to see the actual height value in the unit that you've set up in your campaign. And you will be able to, in the boards panel, set the min and max height, which will then be stored with the board, and will set the range of the vertical bar. And that can be changed at any point technically, but it's sort of like a way of being able to build above the ground or just build a lot taller than you've been able to at the moment. This feature is almost complete. I'm not entirely sure when it will be coming out. There's some server additions that is needed to store those values, but a lot of the UI and things are done. So that's on the horizon at least. Another thing to talk about is ships, because Hannah has been working on a ship tile set. The incredibly challenging part of that has been to like find good pieces to sort of like make something that feels usable. And earlier today, she sent over some rough images from ZBrush. So these are not detailed or anything like that. But if I transition over to this, we can see sort of like what some models in ZBrush sort of looks like before they're like properly detailed out and things like that. So there's some shapes here that look somewhat shippy. I would say actually they look really good. And we tested the shapes. We tested these shapes inside just the block out inside of TaleSpire over like the earlier this week actually, and we think we've come up with a solution that's going to serve both making it look like a ship, but also being pretty flexible and things like that. So they're looking really nice. These shots don't really do these assets justice, but yeah, don't know how long. As in, this is a lot of pieces. So finishing up all of these, making the low polys, testing them, all of that, it's going to take a while still, but it's coming. It's on its way.
Making toys.
I transition back.
Challenging.
I like announcing transitions. Just a reminder that I need to just click that button up there to transition. That's why.
Where did the ships go?
Cool. Jason.
Yeah, like go for it, man.
Well, if you wanted to add anything to the ship.
Oh no, let's go. Let's go.
Because I was gonna push it over to Jason to talk a little bit about assets.
All right, yeah. So assets right now, we're trying to get back onto, a regular cadence of releases. So keep an eye out. Every 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be trying to get back onto that. The Cyberpunk release took a lot of our time, so there was a stall there. But as that was released this summer, we're getting back into the rhythm of things. So in between large releases like the ship pack, just look out for things like that you've been seeing, like the smaller Halloween, the most recent one, which was that Bugbear training thing. I think next we're going to be doing a modern prop pack. So that's probably going to be within a couple of weeks at most. And after that, so we're going to have the ships. We might do an oceanic thing between. See, I'm not sure exactly how we're going to handle that. The ships might be a huge pack, or we might split off some of the stuff that we were going to do with the ships and release a smaller pack in between, because we're whipping up some monsters and some beasts for the sea and things like that. So we'll see how we're going to handle that. But after the ships, one thing I really want to get onto is starting to experiment with towers and diagonal walls. And so what that means is I would like to, if you've seen a lot of the older TaleSpire footage from when we were first kind of showing people what we were working on, you'd see this kind of stone tile set. I'd like to do something in that vein, and it's not in the game right now. That was seriously like a corner piece, a straight piece, and a floor. So I'd like to.
It wasn't
even
it wasn't even a corner piece. It was just a wall that was.
Oh yeah.
So
I really like the look of it.
Floor.
So Johnny made that. All right. So Johnny made that like initial tile set. and I've been in love with it ever since. And then, when he took it away, I was like, oh. So I would really like to get a full set, but like a complete set, something like, that's kind of plain like that, but has diagonal walls, towers. And the way that I was thinking that we could do towers is something like quadrants. So you could, you'd have, a quarter of a tower that you could just, stack, and then, with stairs, and then have certain pieces. So like one corner could be something with a window, one corner could be something with like a stair piece, or, there's a lot of experimentation I'd like to try with that. And the towers themselves would probably ring in at something like, I think like 8 tiles wide. That's kind of like 40 feet. So you could, smallish, larger, it kind of is in between. So you can get a lot of tower adventures out of that. I think you could probably get, some good mileage out of those towers. And if that works out, yeah, I mean, we can expand on either existing tile sets, something like a Morgoth, or, we'll have to go from there and see how it goes. But that's kind of like what's probably going to happen for the next few months. I don't want to look too far off from there. I'd love to do a dwarven tile set, like a proper dwarven tile set, and some other things. Yeah, I'll probably stop there just because I'll get to rambling and all the things I want to make. That, yeah.
I think it's also really important for people to post asset suggestions in
100%. So
especially when it comes to like new tile sets, creatures as well. Creatures are something that we can be working on pretty consistently, but we would love to see more suggestions for creatures. And also if you feel like other people might want to see those same creatures, then get them to like upvote those suggestions, because that helps us when we try to
the upvotes really help. So if your request's already there, get them in, just update.
Yeah, right. I mean, and other than that, the other stuff, I mean, when we make these things, I'm probably going to be making some more sound effects for the game, and I'll try to do some more music for like, kind of piratey theme, just so we have something like, for the pirate, for the ships and things like that, a little Hans Zimmer sounding kind of Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm not going to rip off that thing, but something like that. But and other than that, that's kind of like, where we're at, where we'd like to go, and that should fill in, like the next few months at least. So and yeah, it's been great. The feedback has been great for the packs that have been coming out. Thanks for checking them out and providing feedback here and there. And that's about it for me for now.
That's awesome. So one other little feature that I've got, actually, I'll mention quickly now, is that we're going to have persistence for initiative. So if you've got long-running battles that go over multiple sessions, we will be saving your initiative list soon. I keep forgetting about it. I've got to fit it in somewhere. So I'm not sure if that's like I do that after AoE and then I do Mac. I kind of really want to get on the Mac support though, so it might be Mac and then persistent initiative. But a lot of the work has been done already. There was a bunch of back-end work that we needed to do, and that is already done. So it's just the front-end stuff that needs writing. And that's really cool. In fact, that same back-end work is going to allow us to do notes down the line as well. But that's like another day problem. So that's coming up. And then, Johnny.
I think we're over to questions at this point.
Oh, you want to save the video to see if it comes up in questions?
Oh, well, okay, that one. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Right, yeah. Then shall I start with shall I do the reading?
Sure. I mean, we can probably tap in and out if you'd like, but go ahead, start.
Fantastic. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so up the top we have Node Central. What is the process for taking an object from already made and making it into its own individual item? Example is wizard table with a pots and hat. Okay, so that's like taking things that we've already made and turning it into something different. Oh yeah, like
I-
items off the table. I see what you mean. Yeah.
I think it's like separating them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to take that one, Jason?
Sure. Separating them out is easy in the high poly file, and that's the sculpt. And so what we would have to do at that point is create a new low poly model of the game, rebake that out, and then integrate that into the game. Unity style. So it's just putting collisions on it, etc., testing it out, and things like that. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Johnny, if you have any other details you'd like to.
Well, there's a bit of a range, because I think what you described there is a potential tricky one. As in some cases, you can have an object that's easy to take out, because in a lot of cases they are already separate objects. Especially when it comes to some of the tables, they might have been designed to already be separate. At which point, it's all about separating the mag from the mesh file, and the textures and stuff is already done. So we're good to go. But there are situations like it came up with the one of the trolls, I think, or a giant that had a rock, for instance, and that one was more fused to the model itself. So the process of doing that is like, yeah, we have this sculpt, but it does have to be, we have to make a low poly, as Jason mentioned. We have to UV map it. We have to put it through Substance Painter. We have to paint it. We might be able to utilize the paint job from the previous one, which is one of the things that Substance Painter do pretty well,
Right.
depending on how it's been painted. And then it's exporting it, taking it through Tailweaver, and then sort of from that part, it's similar to the 4Motion simpler version. And Jason made it sound really simple, which it is, but it's also time consuming. Like
Yeah.
you can quickly, like that's quickly a few hours.
Right.
Even though we'd like to say that, oh yeah, we can have that done in an hour. That's usually not the case.
Yeah.
It's like an optimal situation, then maybe, yeah. So it's absolutely possible. I would, if you see things, I would request it, because if it's a simple thing to do, it's something we might be able to do. If it's a tiny thing, we probably wouldn't do it. But if it's like a sizable thing of the size of props that we do have, then it makes a lot of sense. In the case of the table, the wizard's table, I don't like the pots and hat. I don't know how they are constructed. Was that something you did, Jason, or was that Hannah?
I think that was Rach.
Okay.
And so that was like I think that was an all-in-one. But the table, no, the table itself is separate from the cauldrons and those, right, like the things. So
that might be in a situation that it wouldn't be too tough.
No, it wouldn't be too tough to separate those things. But again, you'd have to create the low poly, UV, bake it out, put it in TaleSpire.
Okay, so yeah. So I was wondering whether or not it was baked with the cauldron and the hat, I guess.
Oh, I see. As a separate UV island.
Yeah, as in whether
I'm not sure. I'll have to check.
Yeah. So that's basically why we would have to take it on like a case-to-case basis. But I think it's worth requesting those things, and then we can look into it.
The other one, I'll just say this because, like, coder here, I kind of generally watch and learn with a lot of the stuff that's going on. But one of the things that surprises me is, like, sometimes things have been made to, like, either play well or read well attached to another object. But if they were taken separate, they might say, if it was very small, like a coin on a table or a small candle or something like this, they might not actually read well and play well as a toy in the rest of the world. We had this with, I'm trying to think of the most recent one, was probably some of the modern props we had to like slightly beef up to make them more toy-like. And yeah, so that was just something that was like non-obvious to me, that we couldn't just take some things and just rip them off and they're ready to go. That was really cool.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Good question.
Yeah. All right, next one up. Any new info about subboards or the ship tile set? Oh, a ship tile set we've already addressed. and a preview maybe. Actually, yes, there has been so currently we're working through the questions that were asked before stream. Thank you for everyone who dropped by to leave those. We are going to absolutely get to the ones asked in stream as well, but we will get there. So yes, ship we've covered. Subboards, no new info other than again we're set up to do it. It's just a case of time. We're trying to get through all the features we've promised and ones that you've kind of brought up since we had our original plans, and we've gone, oh damn, that's a really good idea. We need to do that. So yes, Mac is definitely one that is in the way right now, and we will get there. So next one, Diesel. I'm very sorry if I get your name wrong, by the way. Are there any plans to expand the types of AoE markers we can make? For example, and the options choose cylinders instead of spheres and cones. Absolutely, yes. We want to expand rulers, and when rulers are expanded, that automatically is available as an AoE. So I think anyway. No, okay. There's a tiny bit of work to make it an AoE, but it is fairly trivial. It's just a modified ruler. So yeah, that's still in the plans to make some of those.
Definitely something we want to do.
Yeah,
and will be doing.
Yeah, there are interesting design decisions there, which we can get into. I think we talked about in the last stream, but yeah, we can get into them another time for sure. All right. Obviously, guys, jump in whenever if I start rattling too far ahead. Yeah, we've got Sky next.
Sure.
Asking, where do you feel you are currently in regards to the timeline of early access towards Wano? Well, our original timeline was like, we'll be done in April or something like that, which was obviously totally wrong. We're not stressing it, I think, is the main thing. The goal has been and remains that V1 is when we have a game that is reasonable to call V1, when we have those core features that we've wanted. And yeah, we just generally reach that level of stability. We got a lot of features to add to get us to V1, like the train system and like all that kind of stuff. So
there's also, I would also say that there's also systems that are not up to the par of what we want it to be. That include like a building system, especially like things how the players interact with the game, in the sense like the experience as a player coming into the game, and the game master's ability to sort of orchestrate that and to spawn the players into the game, and all that should feel better. And so all of those systems, also there's the systems that we have aren't good enough yet.
Man, I want to say, just from like an art standpoint, so when we started this, I'll tell you guys something. I thought that 5 tile sets was going to be enough for the release. I did. I was like, okay, what do we need? Like, we need a tavern, a castle, a dungeon, sewers, and some natural thing, man, and that's good, and then we can ship. And it's like, holy shit, was I wrong, right? And it's version 1, I don't know what it's going to look like as far as like the art stuff, but as long as these guys are pushing out and they're not happy until V1, the art team's just going to keep working and pushing out. So I guess there's like a balance there, because like the longer they stay in development, the more art you guys are going to get for free. So I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that, guys, take your time. No. But no, that is just one thing I just wanted to say and put out there, just with that question, because I thought V1 5 tile sets was enough, and holy shit, was I wrong.
This thing has grown so much, like from its original inception to what the community asked for us to make, and where we're heading now. It's the scope is, I mean, it's not scope creep so much as it's because it's not still going on, but it's like by the time we reached the early access, we knew what you were asking us to make, kind of thing, and it was like, oh, okay. It's cool.
I mean, there's plenty of feature creep as well.
Oh,
But also we feel like it is like we want TaleSpire to be like we want V1 of TaleSpire to be what we sort of envisioned, plus the things that the community like envisioned, at least sort of the things that align. And yeah, that might take some time still. It is going to take some time still. As in, it's not going to be done. It's not going to be done in next year, I think.
Yeah,
like we're not going to go into V1 for next year.
Yeah, and we're solid. You don't have to worry about us dropping off the map halfway through next year. We're not like panicking that we've got to throw sales out there or we're going to be gone. No, it's all right. We're you folks have looked after us really well, and we are not going anywhere. A little comment I just saw scroll past regarding the mods, which was interesting, and it was someone asking about bringing in mods, which we've slightly addressed, but we'll get back to the question proper. And then someone was saying this would be great for freeing up developer time. And devs as a whole, I suppose, yes, there are certain areas, but like obviously we're like a diverse team. Like we have an art team as well as the kind of the programming team, and the needed art is not slowing down the feature list. So like the features aren't coming at expensive art. Art is not coming at expensive features. So you don't have to worry about that side of things either. Right now I will.
Unless I'm doing art, at which point, yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, so
but we want you to do art, man. I want you to do art. Please do. No, I know, but do it all, man. Do it all.
Maybe like a Sunday exercise. Maybe like a. I'll do some sculpting on Sundays. How's that?
Awesome. All right. I guess this is Spidey, or it's starting with a 5, so who knows? Any chance of implementing a gizmo tool like the one seen in the Planet series games? Basically a tool that allows precise placement of props and allow users to only move an item on a single axis. Okay, so the two-part nature of that is quite interesting. The first part is very simple. We're not looking at doing gizmos. I think John will probably expand on this. We basically, there's a lot of cases where the question is spot on. We'd like to be able to control this thing better. And there is an immediate solution from tools, which is like, here's a gizmo. We would like to achieve that same thing with something that feels nice, that feels like it belongs in the game, that feels like it's TaleSpire. And that's often, it's like, yes, like spot on question. And we would like to take a slightly different approach to implementation so that, it feels nice to use.
Yeah,
I
am going to slightly elaborate on that in the sense that the word gizmo obviously is like it covers a lot of things, and I don't think so we've been working on avoiding traditional gizmos. Now I'm not exactly familiar with how they're done in the Planet like coaster and stuff like that, so I'll have to look into that. But the idea, because there is there's a refactoring of the building system coming up, and one of the there's a couple of goals there. One is making it easy to build bigger, and another thing is making it easier to make like smaller decisions, like placement and things like that. So both of those things are design goals there. The answer is most likely not going to be a gizmo, but the functionality of a gizmo, as in what it brings to it, should be a goal of us. So, yeah, that's my
nice
elaboration on it.
Yeah, I love it. There was basically a tool.
I actually saw someone just to comment on that, but I saw someone comment on new building system. The third goal is to make sure that the current way of building remains the same, as in sort of the same flow of building that we have today should also be present. So it's improving on top of that and making building bigger, which is like the terrain system is going to be part of that eventually, but not that necessarily that first part of it. Things like maybe dragging out tiles to create walls and stuff like that Chris has mentioned in the past, where we have like ways of more easily creating buildings, things like that. It might be part of that, but also initially it's mainly going to be improving on the current system to make it easier to place things where you want them to, but also not making it 100% reliant on keyboard modifiers. So ways to be able to achieve vertical movement, horizontal movement on a plane, things like that, without necessarily having to lean on the keyboard. Yeah.
Nice. All righty. Then we'll go to Foxydable. First of all, I want to thank you for an amazing work. Oh, thank you. Game as a gem.
Thank you.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
From what I've understood, our boards are stored remotely. Is there a plan to allow people to store them locally and possibly run a private server for those boards, or not at all? Right. So there's a few bits in there. Hosting, so doing peer-to-peer is very much a long-term goal, which would necessitate hosting locally in some fashion. So yeah, long-term, yes, and we will be exploring peer-to-peer technologies when we start dealing with voice chat and video chat again. We've got a few different bits we're looking into there. There's new options are available when you have someone who's dedicated to backend. It's very exciting. But yes, so that part, yes. And then there's also a kind of intermediate question, which is, could we check out a board offline and then just work on the board offline? Now, yes, technically that would be possible. You suddenly get into issues of, okay, so we allow a campaign with multiple GMs, and yeah, then all those GMs can make changes. So if a GM takes a board offline, can other people edit that board? What if that GM takes the board offline and dies, or that GM falls out with the other GMs and just takes all the boards offline and locks them so the other people can't edit them? Or do we allow multi-editing? I mean, obviously, programmers then go suggesting you should have some kind of diff and merge tool, but that tends to be horrible for these kind of assets in 3D, in my opinion. We don't want to make Git for tiles. That just is upsetting. So it would have to be something more coarse. So it's not that it's impossible. There's a lot of questions that require work. I know I think each stream when this comes up, I say the same thing. It's like, yeah, possible, but there's tough aspects to that. And right now we're not doing it. Right now we're just not tackling that. But yeah, we're not against it. Fratz says, is there anything in development for systems relying on special dice mechanics, such as Fantasy Flight games with special dice, or games using the Year Zero engine where you roll a pool of D6 looking specific faces? I can English. Yeah.
So this is something we'd like to look at, because I know especially like dice pooling and stuff like that is common enough for it to be something we should be looking at. I don't know when we'll have the time to start looking at these types of systems. That's sort of my current answer. I think also we'd love to. I don't know if there's any feature requests on this currently, but if there is, upvote it and also add like examples of systems that do the things that you'd want to do. Because it's obvious that we would have to have like this a little bit separate way of handling dice when it comes to like pooling them and things like that, because you want to sort of carry them with you in a way. While we're sort of currently have them sort of laying around on the table, you don't have any finite control over them. If you want to turn a die and put it on a number, you can't do that at the moment. So we just have to figure out like what a feature like that would look like, and how we can take what we have currently and sort of also make it feel as integrated into the board or into the game in a physical way as we've been trying to achieve with everything else. That was a long-winded answer. I apologize.
No, that was it. That's great. You're gonna have to break up the video. Sorry, Johnny. What would you say? This is Jay McCoy. What would you say about Fog of War's current outline? Would there be a feature that'll be finished well for early access ending, or in one of the final updates? Okay, so timeline. There's not. I don't foresee it being one of the last things. So Fog of War is something we've tried hard with before. We've since the alpha, we've been iterating on fog and visibility in different forms. Some of them made it out, some of them didn't. Obviously, the last one, I thought I really had it with our kind of voxely-based fog thing, and then I handed it over to you folks, and I had a demonstration within the afternoon of why it was completely not fit for purpose, and I went, oh, okay. So basically, the fog experiment that's in there currently is kind of not good. It's no good. It's no good. It's going to need to be replaced. And that has driven on a lot of kind of thoughts and designs in that direction. One of the things so originally we were very keen on getting persistent Fog of War done. And that has a massive additional design challenge to it with regards to compact storage and things like this. If the idea is we allow you to have massive boards, and then we're going to allow fog that's persistent for multiple parties and all this kind of stuff, the storage aspect of it becomes a part of the problem, as well as all the computation. So that was a thing. But if we just focus on the real-time fog aspect, real-time Fog of War, it remains a hard problem, but a different hard problem. And that is something we have been experimenting with, and I will let Johnny talk a bit about that, actually, because he's done most of it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a little bit timid to show this particular video because it was actually a failed experiment. But what it did show was there might be a way to do a semi 3D fog, which technically the data is 3D, but the visualization is more 2D, that can reveal the things you would expect to see when you enter a room. Because one of the things we did try when it came to real-time Fog of War was to basically have a shadow caster. So the way shadow caster work is that it's actually, I'm not going to go into it because I was going to go, okay, you draw a cube depth map and you sort of calculate. But what you get is every single tiny piece of the room is going to cast an incredibly sharp shadow, and it doesn't look great. And if you go over the edge of if you go over the if you look over into nature and there's a sharp edge, it will cast a really long shadow because of the position of that shadow is basically the player. So also you couldn't see past the bar, which makes sense, but it just didn't look good. All of the stuff on the tables casted these horrendous shadows, and it just felt like you were moving a shadow around. It did not work. So I was trying to do some volumetric shapes. So basically trying to utilize some more processing heavy techniques of getting a fog looking substance out of this shadow. But because of a mistake, I ended up just using the top part of this shadow casting thing. And what I ended up with is interesting. It's not a solution. It is interesting. And I want to just show that off here because there might be something we could build off of. Let me just transition onto that. So this was sort of the type of fog that we got, which is actually more of a plane, but it does protrude slightly into the surfaces as well. And then as we move through here, it sort of casts the shadows upwards. And you can see that it's basically just a plane, but surprisingly, it can hide a lot of the things that you sort of it shows most of the stuff you would expect to see is basically what I'm trying to say. This would not be the visual aspect of this, and I also would have to come in pair, I think, with the player restriction mode that we've been talking about in the past, where the camera is sort of restricted more around the player. But it's interesting. It's an interesting experiment, and it worked there is something here, it feels like. And I know I'm seeing in the comments now it doesn't have to be perfect. That is true, but also it does have to, it has to serve its purpose at least.
Yeah, like the one we made wasn't perfect. Like there were, the last thing was like you could come up with situations that it almost worked, but it was yeah. It's surprising. It's surprising how close you have to get to correct before it's even vaguely acceptable. It's strange, and this is a video. It was a surprise to us. This because like Johnny was saying, it came out of like an almost an accident. Yeah, this was it was closer to good than it had than we ever expected or had any right to be almost. Yeah, there is. This is to say, we are still doing this. We are still experimenting. We're trying to find good things. Actually, again, as feedback, if you believe that you have found a game that has a 3D fog of war system, I'd love to hear about it in feedback at TaleSpire.com. Things that are not 3D fog are 2D fog in a 3D world. So if you have a 3D world, like basically if you build a tower and you go in the bottom floor and it reveals the bottom, like it reveals the fog on the bottom floor and also the fog higher up, that's not 3D fog of war. It's not 3D if the fog is high and then it's like a height map, so it just goes down and cuts a big gorge out. It like what you need to be able to do is if your character stands in at the entrance of a cave, then there should be a cone of visibility that goes out, and everything else should be obscured. It must be this volumetric type effect. If you've seen that, I would love to see it, because we've gone through a whole bunch of games looking for techniques. We haven't found one that really does it yet. Baldur's Gate 3, no, it doesn't. That is, it is. I think that's one of the ones we checked, if I remember. It's not 3D. We also there's also cases where you have like portaling, so you stand in a certain area and it reveals a 3D volume, but it's not a dynamic fog of war based on the view of your character and stuff like this. Pretty sure that was one of the ones we looked at. But yes. Do let us know. We are very interested in that.
Yeah, and because we do have 3D line of sight, technically.
Yes. Yeah.
But we don't have 3D fog of war.
Yep. Yeah. XCOM. That's one of the ones we looked at as well. Afraid not the approach we need. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, and for so many games you don't need this. Yeah, it's a fun one. But we are going to get there
one
eventually.
That I just did or just showed. Like, it works in this specific case. There's a good chance that we might be able to make it work more consistently, but it worked at this particular height with this particular setting with this. So we would have to figure out exactly what this effect was. And I know how it works, but also when we're moving, because it's technically still a 2D plane. Means that you can go underneath it and you can like see as far as you can. The reason why that sort of works if we have the player restricted mode is that you wouldn't really see any more than the player would see anyway, so you couldn't really go through walls and stuff like that. At which point being able to go down and see from the perspective of the player wouldn't really reveal anything. So it's possible that this is a version that could come out with that player restricted mode. And maybe that's something that we should put a higher priority on. So it's something. There's something here, and it was surprisingly good for like in this particular scenario. Yeah,
we'll be exploring to find out what this is and if it's versatile enough to be used in other places. But just to let you know, we're still actively working on fog. Thorncrypt asks, could weather effects such as rain, snow, etc. be added in 2023? There was a mod that handled weather quite well, but it broke because of updates. My player's been asking about weather ever since. Absolutely. Like, it is entirely feasible that we have it in 2023. So the current from the purely code side, there is a UI element that we need to have finished for designing certain kinds of code graphs. When I have that, then I can go back to our previous compute particle system experiments and continue that. We wrote about this a little while ago in one of the devlogs, but to quickly summary, to quickly summarize, Unity has a really cool compute-driven, like GPU-driven particle system that they have for their new rendering stuff, but the new rendering stuff is not ready. So there was a project that backported it to earlier versions, but it was to a specific version of Unity, which we've had to move past for bug fixes and all kinds of things. So yes, so we tried that. We tried to fix it as well, and we couldn't. It's past it. There's certain parts, even though it's an external package that you download for Unity, there's things inside Unity that have been made to support this package itself. So when the version changed, it just broke everything, which was a nightmare. So we are having to make our own compute-based particle system, which is cool and fun, but that is going to take some work, which we're totally up for doing. But yeah, we need to. We got some bits to make there, and that's before then we build the systems using a particle system like that.
I should say that Unity does have a particle system, and it's a particle system. It's a servable particle system, but the types of stuff we wanted to do with the weather is really tedious to do there, and I'd like to move past that to be able to use more computing and stuff like that on the GPU to make it better. So we've kicked that can down the road a bit, and I know that it's tempted to just put something in, but there's work to just put something in as well, and that's work that we would have to redo basically.
Yeah, every feature we kind of like. There's the version we want to make, and if we make a version that's kind of a stopgap, then that still takes development time away from the things that we need to make for you. Sometimes it's worth it, like the water tiles. The water tiles we put in, as gorgeous as they are not how we want to do water or envisage to do water down the line, but you folks need them, and so we made that. But obviously that was time.
Yeah. And it makes, in a lot of cases, that makes sense. But hopefully we'll be able to get like weather within a reasonable amount of time. But I understand because I love the idea of having weather inside of TaleSpire. And looking forward to working on it.
Awesome. Okay, any thoughts of doing official? This is from Thorncrypt again. Any thoughts on doing official collaborations with publishers before Multiverse sells? Silly Discord. Sorry, I'm having a few issues here. One more Multiverse sells Blades in the Dark and Humblewood bundles, Fantasy Grounds. Unity has massive catalogs of official content. Roll20 sells. Going through examples, basically. Do you have any partnerships in the works? So we've always been very open about saying we are honest about what we're honest to you about, and we're going to not tell you stuff or lie to you about things that would be inappropriate for us to tell you about. Things go on behind the scenes between companies all the time, and I'm not specifically talking about us. I'm talking about loads of games companies. Different people talk to each other, and that's all right. And most things don't go anywhere. So yes, like we are open to stuff. I think that's something we've always said. Like, reach out, contact us, say hi.
I'm going to elaborate a little bit on that because yes, we are interested in working with people. It also, the other aspect of it is like doing stuff like that would be incredibly beneficial for us and for everyone, but it also does take time to negotiate and to set up like do contracts and things like that. So from our past experience as well, it's been amazing to work with all of the companies that we've been able to work with, but it has been a lot of time that has been taken away from actually developing, and that comes down to why we've been hiring some people and stuff like that now. But so we'd like to, and we'll see what makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, from Vandermont, letting you know, people on the stream, we haven't reached the live questions yet, but we are getting there. I'm seeing them in the horizon. We are going to get through all this. We're on till at least midnight tonight, so I'm just happy to keep going. Vandermont asks, would it be possible to add color shifting to parts, such as a filter over a tile to shift its color and the white marble to other color, etc., etc.? Yes. So yeah, do you want to talk about tinting again, Johnny?
Yeah, so there's tinting of characters and there's tinting of tiles, and this question comes up quite frequently, and I do understand why. Like pure tinting of tiles, we won't be doing, like color selection and stuff like that. There is a possibility that we could do variants, like pre-made variants of tiles, to get more mileage out of them. We haven't specifically started looking into that, but it is something that we might be able to look into.
Yeah, and then tinting of creatures absolutely is still.
Yes, okay. Yeah, that is the thing that's going to. I'm not entirely sure when it's going to happen, but it is a system that is part of the hero creator, because we need to figure out the tinting stuff for that. So that would also apply to a lot of creatures as far as like how that is done, because it's like how do we apply those colors to the creatures and how are they stored in memory? Whether or not we pre-bake a texture and then store it in memory, or if we're doing that pixel calculation every frame, it makes probably most sense to do a texture and store it in memory. But we'll have to see. The benefit of doing it in memory is that we can do a little bit of a tougher calculations for like getting the colors nice, rather than having to push in a lot of colors and palettes and stuff and gradients into the character shader and do it every pixel basically. And that's needed for the hero creator, and therefore it makes sense to make that compatible with the creatures as well.
Cool. Right. Okay. Oh, it was Vandermoor, not Vandermeer. Sorry about that. Zyth, Kickstarter dice. I'm not the best person to answer that one.
I mean, there's a couple of things. We need to be able to swap out the dice, I guess. So currently we don't have a system for that. Don't have an estimated time for that at the moment, unfortunately, because customizing dice in general would be really useful. It would also allow people to mod in dice that we might not be able to provide for their games. So yeah, unfortunately, it's a thing that I haven't thought about for a little bit, but it's one of those things that definitely need to happen.
Yeah, I mean there's that difference between, again, like if we hack in the Kickstarter dice as like just a special, like we hack in just that feature, that gets it done faster, but isn't flexible. If we put it together with another system like customizable dice, then it takes longer, but it supports other things. So yeah,
I would say that
general,
we've absolutely started talking a lot about the Kickstarter rewards again, because it is something that we want to put more focus on going into next year.
Yeah. And dice in general are getting some work soon. I've got some performance work to do on dice. That's got some refactorings, which should hopefully help when we get to the dice macros.
I think I'm getting some static from your microphone. I'm not sure if others are hearing that or not.
I'm hearing it.
Oh, shit. Okay. I'm not sure if that made a difference. Probably not.
It's like a robot-y voice laying underneath your own.
Okay. Then I will disconnect and come back in a second.
See, this is what happens when you program too much Lisp.
We did a Lisp slide as he was heading out. That's
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, yes. Let's give him a moment to get back here. Yeah, there might have been some. How are you doing?
All right. Did that tick all of you off?
Seem to have sorted it.
Oh, good. Okay. Excellent. Nice. Right. Yeah. Dice stuff. And then, okay. So Zyth again. Any idea on when we get better presence of other players, pings, mouse locations, etc.? I know the management tool works technically. Oh, the measurement tool works technically, and this has been addressed in the roadmap. But any transparency on this would be appreciated. I don't think we have a specific update for that right now. Again, definitely something we still intend to do, and we'd like to be clearer on. Yeah, the roadmap is going to get better over the coming months as all this kind of stuff gets processed, and then we can have a slightly better idea of what's going on.
There is, I mentioned briefly earlier, wanting the player experience to be better in general, and that is one of those things. Between that and sort of like the restricted player mode, and also we have some party stuff that we need to design when it comes to like getting creatures on the board, like characters on the board quicker, and all of that. It sort of goes into that same that same general feature.
Okay, for the new dice rolling in game with the commands and such, can we get the ability to do things such as keep the highest? What we need there is the ability to type out the dice roll and hit return in the chat box. As nifty as it is actually a really shallow change. It's just tapping into the dice URLs we already had. So what we actually need is a proper dice macro system, and I would love to work on that. But first got to ship the AoEs Mac, and the other thing I said I was doing, I can't even remember.
Modding was a big one.
Modding, yes. I think people will crucify us if we don't get modding in there. So yes, I would love to get onto that, but not yet. There's no trivial way to add that to the thing we already have. We just have to do the job, the big job, the proper job. Holy Job. Speaking of jobs, Holy Job says, could we get stats where the value, not the stat name, is text and not a number? It's not an impossible idea. Yeah, throw it in the feature request, please, so that doesn't get lost. That is interesting. Bollycop asks, I'd love to be able to use TaleSpire for game design prototyping. Oh, that's cool. Is there any chance of custom dice, cards, hands, decks, dice pools? So we mentioned a little bit about dice and dice pools, so we won't go over that again. We haven't got any plans to add cards or things like that, really, at all, actually. But yeah, we've got no plans to add that at this time.
Yeah. I think there's also like to mention some, like there are other. I'm selling other people's products here, but like Tabletop Simulator is great for that particular thing because it's already set up for you to be able to do all of those things.
Oh yeah,
and it's an absolutely fantastic.
Really is, man.
Software / game.
We're always 100% about the idea of like use the thing that helps you do the thing you're trying to do. Like if it's TaleSpire, that's awesome, and if it's Tabletop Simulator, use that, and any of the others. It's just really cool. People tell stories, have fun.
Cool. I would absolutely love people doing that inside of TaleSpire, but it's also that's not really our focus. And it has people do it really well. Yeah,
doing cards well. That's a mission. That'd be cool. But for another game.
Yeah.
Right. Buldrex asks, with water towers in the works, water towers will be shipped. Are there plans for water props as well, such as globs of water similar to snow props and perhaps splashes, foam waves? Do you want to answer that, Johnny?
Initially at least stuff to hopefully make waterfall. I tried doing like splashes and things. They didn't turn out like that great. I might have to revisit that because it feels like there needs to be some like foaming and things happening. But yes, I am going to try to make some organic shapes for like creating nicer looking water related things, I guess you should say. So that will, I'm not sure when that's coming out, but I'll be continuing working on some of the water stuff into next week. So hopefully, unless there's some major reasons why they're not working, then it shouldn't be too far away.
Also, to be Captain Buzzkill as well, the water tiles are a stopgap. As pretty as they are, and as far prettier, like they're much nicer than I thought we were going to do. Because I was originally like just a blue tile. yeah, they look fantastic and play really well. But yeah, we've got to make sure we keep working on other features. We don't want to just work on Stopgap, making that really like any better than. Yeah, it needs to be. We need to put the time into the actual features.
It does feel like the props aspect of this is something that could be useful in the future. So in a sense, they probably have more merit than the tiles, but also I think the tiles. I mean, I'm joking a lot about the tiles, but I mean, I can absolutely see why people would want them, right? So,
oh, totally, yeah, they're awesome. Mr. Sisk says, after GMing exclusively in TaleSpire for over a year, holy cow!
Nice.
And in general, what a great experience it's been, dude. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
The one part of the game that's been really limiting is the bare bones initiative system. Absolutely. Any plans to improve this? What's lacking? Things like an indication of what initiative round we're currently in, and the ability for GMs to add hidden minis to the initiative order without players seeing them. Currently, I have to break the flow of combat to add previously hidden minis to the initiative order once they come out of hiding. Absolutely. Yes, we're. Yeah.
There is absolutely a refactoring of the initiative stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So it will be going onto the roadmap. Don't know exactly when we'll be able to handle it yet.
Yeah, the persistence of the initiative list will come probably first though, because I'm almost ready to do that. Okay.
But also setting up like ways of doing more advanced initiative orders, things like having players or creatures go multiple times within a round. What a round concept is, so that you can place things in out of, like, if someone only moves every 2 rounds and stuff like that, but also being able to place like generic effects in the inside of the initiative bar, so that you can keep track of those things. Is things that we want to do in a refactor in the future, but that is further down the line.
All right. Scott Cross asks again about water. Water tiles in the devlog. It seems minis will be able to pass through them. Fantastic. Can the same technique be applied to the corn stalks and then possibly make tall grass and similar terrain too? In this way, minis can walk through instead of standing on top of it. I've done mod with various grass. Cool. And as they were minis, it allowed for a cool feature for monsters and PCs to stalk or hide in tall grass. That's cool.
So
parts of that.
To answer that, some things we actually already do that with, like the like some of the leaves and stuff like that. And the way we achieve that is basically by not having a collider on them. Because we have the pixel picking, we're able to pick them without a collider, which is awesome. So that is maybe something we can do. That's up to you, I think, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Oh man, I know the clipping and stuff like that, and like I don't know. Yeah, it's the corn stalks. Yeah, I mean, I understand, man. You know, instead of having to set up, large paths through a corn, field or anything like that, if you wanted to kind of like, I mean, maybe that's something we can do, is just take like the collider off of some of these things that, somebody would otherwise be able to kind of shift their way through and snake their way through.
We have started doing it on some smaller things, just because it became really cumbersome when trying to play with. So maybe that's a good chance. I also said if that would break. Someone said whether or not that would change how it works currently in game, and yes, that would change how they work currently in game.
All right. Next one up. Yes. So Gig also asked about snow, ice, rain, electrical storms, meteor showers, and the such. We're getting close to those things. 2 features. One's weather, and one is kind of special effects that can be thrown out by the mod. Yes, things are progressing. Okay, things are progressing in general in the games. We're getting closer to them. No, the work hasn't specifically started on the particle system. Yes, some experiments were done on GM placeable effects, I believe, a while back. But there hasn't been, I don't think, recently.
It's one of those things that, especially the effect stuff, it's one of those things that like pops up in my head quite frequently as something that, oh yeah, I should, like, that's something we should do. And then I start making some effects, and I realize that making like miniature looking effects is difficult and tricky. But yeah, it is. If I can find the time, I would love to. Now it's probably going to be the hero creator for a little while.
Awesome. I'm. This is a weird one. My little hut is starting to get a little cool. I'm going to turn on my electric heater. If the humming becomes annoying, let me know, and I can turn it off. It's not uncomfortable, but I'm starting to notice it. So I just want to click this on for a little while. Hopefully that isn't too bad. Yell in chat. Okay, so now we're down to live questions. Hooray, we're here.
Hey.
So Nerd Central, that first question you asked is just weird. I don't know.
The answer is yes, though, as in that,
No,
like in
no.
every context.
Your question makes me uncomfortable, and it will be skipped. So we get straight on to GM Workshop, who asked, hard question, are we worried at all about the D&D VTT? No. And yeah, the quick answer is no. For me personally, I, in a previous life, worked on making tools. One of our competitors was Facebook. We worried about them far too much, and we shouldn't have, because it didn't their product they were putting out wasn't doing what we wanted to do as well as we were doing it, and we shouldn't have spent so much time fretting about it. And so yeah, I've very much learned that lesson. They just do not. Yeah, it doesn't worry me.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of in a similar boat there, in that I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I mean, it would have been great to be able to work with them on something, but that's something that wasn't in the books, and we'll be continuing doing our thing, and we'll see what they come up with, and I'm sure it's going to be good. And yeah, that's it.
Cool. I saw you click something, Jace. I wasn't sure if you wanted to jump in on there, or I can just get on to the next one.
Oh no, I mean, I mean, we're doing our thing. They're gonna, hopefully they make something that is really fun to play Dungeons and Dragons in. They have the resources, and I don't see why they couldn't, make something.
Also, would love the open game license thing to last, to endure, but because I think it was just good for everyone. Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah, we're all gonna see, right? See how they handle the new, or whatever, not new edition.
We're not planning on going anywhere, folks. Okay.
Yeah,
so
a lot of energy to stress about it, basically.
Yeah. No.
So let's not do that.
Simulacra is saying, will there be any first-person perspective for minis? No, it's not something we're planning. And then Small Favor asks, could we expect an upgrade to the current Fog of War tool? As you've heard, yes, we're still working on it, and yeah, we'll do our best. To the current Fog of War tool.
Oh.
Okay, so no, the current one wasn't fit for purpose, which is unfortunate. We will eventually get back to persistent Fog of War. We're going to try and nail other aspects of it first. It's I won't go over that again, because I failed there. That was a shame. Right, Kneezy says, moving large slab sets can be difficult, especially if the footprint is larger than the selection box allows. Ran into it recently trying to raise a city street. Any chance of you're looking at it, or are you open to looking at ways to reduce difficulty? Absolutely, we're interested in, like we've been mentioning, refactoring the building tools is very much something we want to do when we're getting into the subboards, we're going to be talking about moving very large areas of tiles. So we're going to need to examine our cameras and tools for moving large things. I'm not sure about enlarging the area of the maximum selection. I don't know.
I think it's a somewhat arbitrary number at this point. But we'll have to look at that, right?
Yeah, it's kind of. So the building system has been made to handle, could technically handle any size thing with a very small message sent across the network. But slabs saved out as strings are a different matter. They have things which we can go into technical. Yes, there are limits put on us by. Yeah, things are hard. We'll get to that another time. But yes, yeah, the short version, yes, we're going to look at that. Two Hands asks, are there any plans or considerations to implement an overworld map tile set a la Hexton Hills 3D printable map tiles in the future? We've definitely talked about doing various ways of doing overworld maps. Tiles has also been thought about. We don't have any conclusions yet. We definitely would need to do some experiments. We are not against the idea. JO07SJ asks, is there a way to export a map as a 3D model? No. And from the same person, does the water reflection work with other screen space effects? I'm not entirely sure what that means. Does that make sense to you, Sean?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that means either. As in, it's not a real time. Well, okay, so the screen space. Well, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that means. There is like problems with fog generally when it comes to water, and that's going to be continuing to be an issue for a little while. It's also an issue with the new water tiles, unfortunately. So yeah, that's we have to revisit that. But that's does water reflection work with other screen space effects? Also, the new water tiles technically doesn't even sample the screen space reflection stuff, so I had to fake it. And I don't know why that happened, but it was one of those roadblocks that I got into and had to work around. By passing in the skybox to use that as a reflection rather, and that's not ideal, but that's where we're at.
McKay, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just reading the rest of that question to see whether or not it is relevant.
Fantastic.
I mean, no, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. There are a few ways. It's almost like an incomplete kind of question. There are a few ways you can complete it and get different answers for different things. Feel free to expand on it if you like. McCabe asked, will the pixel picker take into account the refraction of water tiles as you picking around corner? No. Actually, that's so squirrely. That's interesting.
Yeah. That's actually one of those problems that and one of the reasons why I mentioned that we might have to pull back on the refraction, because when you move closer to the tile, the refraction goes away. So you can go close and move things. However, when you're out, the refraction is all over the place, and that amount might have to be reduced. I'm looking forward to getting some feedback on that. I mean, yeah, it would be a lot of fun to have that in the pixel picker, but that would mean doing like multiple passes, like one pass per additional, because we have like one for glass, one for water, and those would have to be done on top of what's already there. Yeah, that seems.
And we don't do that at all for picking right now. Picking is a completely separate.
No. So it would have to, all of that stuff would have to be passed in some other way. So I don't think that's going to happen.
We don't think so. Yeah. Also, we have an option for when we for picking through tiles. So we could always switch out the visual when in pick through water tile, pick through glass mode. We could always do something.
Yeah, on building we do, but if you're moving a character in there, it will get a bit wobbly.
Yeah.
You can zoom in towards the character, and the wobbliness will go away. But it's one of those things where the water tiles is not ideal, and but we can lessen that effect. If it becomes a problem. So that might be part of the next update, like when I do the organic water shapes.
Fantastic. GM Workshop asks, again for you actually, Johnny, does the atmospheric fog work on the water tiles?
They have the same problem on the water tiles as they do on the water itself. They're probably going to work a little bit better because the water is technically a plane, and the tiles have more point in world in their sort of, they have more points to sort of reference. But yeah, we will. There's similar problems, unfortunately, with the water tiles as well. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Awesome. Okay, so oh man, I knew how to pronounce your name once, Uete, but I don't now. When can we expect to see adjustable board dimensions or removal of board height limits? You know what? I haven't actually thought about that in a while. I don't
know. So the adjustable board dimensions, at least with the vertical bar, we're looking probably at weeks to be able to set that range. We still have a limit within what the current board limit is, but at the moment that vertical bar is limited to a lot lower down than what the actual world has. The vertical bar is a lot more limiting than the actual world is at the moment. So with being able to set those board values should at least remedy that part. But as far as sort of removing board limits, you did specifically ask height limits, so that should at least address that partially and make it a lot easier to build taller.
And oddly enough, I can't actually remember if our XZ limitations, like our horizontal limitations, are actually how small they are relative to our supported size. So I'd have to get back to you on that one. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, they're pretty tall, way taller than the vertical.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So, Hollow Fox, since you're using ECS dots, have you started playing around with the 1 alpha release? We're not using ECS dots. ECS is interesting. So there's a few parts to it. Their 1.0 release is still not finished. It's still an experimental release. And from looking at the comments so far, if I understand correctly, that it's still not primetime ready. Also, the whole I'm going to get up in arms here, old man yell at sky. But the whole point of data-oriented design is about looking at your problem, looking at what your machine does, the actual hardware of the machine, and designing and writing to these things. Thinking about your data and how that's being used and how your functions behave with that. The layout of the ECS isn't beneficial to the kind of things we're doing. The way I'm trying to remember their archetypes. The way they organize data based on their archetypes is great for a lot of stuff. It is not great for TaleSpire. And so we're organizing our data the way it makes sense for that. So that's why we don't use the ECS.
We definitely use dots heavily.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, we use the dot stack. We use the native containers and we use the burst compiler very heavily. Their job system is fantastic. The burst compiler is I fucking love that stuff. And yeah, like if you turn off burst compilation, TaleSpire runs at like horrendously low FPS on any decent sized board. It is absolutely unplayable. So yeah, we rely on that a lot. It's so cool. Yeah, burst is amazing. So what is the status of Tailweaver? We think we really take TaleSpire to the next level. Modding right now is quite painful. Yeah, I mean, shout out to the unofficial modding community. They have, seen as they're working in a building site right now, they do impressive stuff. It's been really nice. Obviously, so a while ago we were making changes, and that would break mods and things like this. And there was one particular time that we broke quite a few mods. And since then, on like having had discussions with them, we've started putting all of our features through a beta for a period of time, so that interested modders can test out the thing, see if the changes break stuff in places they've been playing around with, and fix those things up before we do a release. So we've been really happy with the result of that. We hope they're cheery about that too, which is something we intend to keep doing. So yes, I've talked myself out of remembering what the question was. Tailweaver, yes, Tailweaver is still there. It has not been. We've not gone to the stage where we're polishing. We're still changing data representations of stuff. Currently, we are going to get modding of creatures out faster. We're going to strip it down just to that, so we can allow you to do stuff. Yes, see earlier in this video for a bit of chat about that. Wite, I'm going to just do it different ways each time, I think. Atmos settings currently do not contain the vertical fog sliders, preventing it from being... Oh, blast, it just scrolled. How was I so bad at this? Preventing it being added to an Atmos GM block. Can this be adjusted? Yeah, we could definitely... I think that sounds like something we can...
Yeah, so before you jump in and sort of say yes to that, it is...
I can't remember why we had it separate. There was a really good reason at the time.
Yeah, so at the... Whenever you add something to, like, changing lighting is one thing. Changing the verticality of the fog, for instance, was a bit of a problem when setting up like multiple GM blocks, because it has a tendency to like at the time of like implementation, it felt bad, and that's why it sort of felt like, okay, maybe this should be like a board thing, like the water is, because we don't set the water level in the Atmos blocks things either. I can see, because it's like an atmospheric thing, that was where I initially thought it should go. It was into the atmosphere menu, but it had ended up in the board because of how we were using the fog at the time. Whether or not that's correct, yeah, that's up for debate. And yeah, maybe there is a way to sort of check off whether or not you want the GM block to affect the fog, like having a concept of like, should like you have a default value, or I don't know. It felt complicated at the time to try to sort of solve this problem of the fog sort of going up and down everywhere when creating new blocks. So that was sort of the reasoning for it, but
so not yet.
Something to revisit. Was that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was just saying the same kind of thing. Not yet. We'll have to.
Yeah, it's it might be just something we need to revisit and look at and try again, and figure out how to sort of fit it into the GM block atmosphere system in a way that doesn't feel bad.
Yeah, and it was Uti. I was
good.
That
cool.
Was the pronunciation.
Right. Good question, and I didn't mean to dismiss it immediately, but that was the reasoning.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's perfect. Rolmoville says there is a possibility to let play. Oh, so it's kind of like, is there a possibility to let players create AOE markers? The DMs have a lot of work, and this feature is more functional with the play. Yes, totally. Actually, yeah, that is on the list of stuff to do there. What I really like is the ability for a GM to be able to right-click on a player ruler and turn it into an AOE. And the reason for that slight difference is players can be a menace, and if you give them the opportunity to permanently affect the board, chaos happens. So that's the reason we're able to clear all of the dice in one go, because players do love to just keep throwing thousands of dice. And so yes, we would want it to be that the GM for now controls when something becomes an AOE, but being able to have a player make a ruler and then just right-click, the GM can right-click it and turn it into an AOE seems like a nice balance. At least we can do that and start with that and feel it out.
It's also possible that once we have like a player restricted mode, that we could relax the normal mode and then have it more restricted on the player restricted one. But I think the method that Chris describes is probably going to be the first version, at least, of that.
Cool. Well, Gamers89 asks cube AoEs. Yes, it's definitely a possibility. Earlier in the thing we talked about, more kinds of rulers definitely of interest. Black Wolf Magic asks, is there a plan to release existing assets in a different orientation from release vertical versus horizontal? For example, standing version of the skeletons, we can hang them on walls. That's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have a lot of that kind of stuff, and before we do that, I know with the next iteration, I guess we could probably go through and I would just have some questions to Johnny before I would do more of that kind of stuff, and whether or not like the next iteration of the build tools would include another axis of rotation, if any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's my thought. That's my thought process to that right now. Is like I'd want to go through. I'd want to go through Johnny first, or Chris, whoever's going to be implementing those, like an update to the build tools. Only because it will, yeah, it'll start polluting the library if we have props that are, a skeleton that's laying down, the same skeleton that's up. I would rather make a hanging skeleton, for like a dungeon thing, and
I think I think as far as that is, like, once we started doing different orientations, it does start to make sense of like maybe being able to like flip at least one axis, like you're being able to make something that's horizontal, vertical, and that might be something we'd be able to do.
As with our usual, we see how far we can go with a certain way until we kind of like run into these places where it's like, I mean, like having 4 orientations of skeleton kind of is crazy. So maybe we have something to do there. We have a couple of bits spare.
I'm starting to notice, by the way, that we are like about 20 minutes away from the end of the stream. So we're going to continue going as far as we can, but there's a possibility we won't be able to get through everything.
We will try. Is there a timeline for the character sheet customizable rule system? No, there's not a timeline. We'll obviously talk about that as soon as that changes. It's not lost. Whoa, up in there. Thanks, Mods. Cheers. Uti says, improved hide volumes or developing a fog of war? Which? Why not both? Really Youngblood asks, what are the chances of getting something like alternate colors for different objects or creatures? We've talked about that. Yes, for creatures. Not planned for tiles right now. Hollowfox says, for the hero creator, are you going to use mesh and texture combiners for performance improvement?
Yes.
And then we have Vanmar TR says, what is the ultimate goal for TaleSpire? The ultimate map-making, dungeon-building, integrated D&D experience, or what? That's a nice big question.
Oh, God. Ask us when we know. Like, it's still one of those things, man, where this thing is just, it's kind of just becoming something, and we're just standing back and just poking it every once in a while and being like, ooh.
That sounds like we have a plan.
We can say it's we're not trying to make a tool. We're trying to make a place to be. We're trying to just enhance storytelling for the kind of people where this thing enhances their experience. We're doing a thing for people like us who get something out of this. I think that's fair.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Okay. Old Gamers 89 again. Timeline for more floral assets? That's interesting.
As in, I think there might be some on the asset request board. So, push those upwards. Also, if there's specifics, like the more specific the requests are, the easier they are to sort of amuse us as far as making them. So specific plural things would be really nice.
Like needing a ferret.
Right.
Yes.
Performance-wise, JA07SJ Ust. Performance-wise, is there some idea where TaleSpire's performance bottlenecks are? I've been building some bigger maps, and I know density, shadows, and torture effects are big performance hits, but it's unclear if I'd need to upgrade my GPU or CPU to make these things better, as neither seem to be showing fully saturation on my systems, even as the frame rates decline. Oh, that's a fun one. Yes, I love it. There's all kinds of bottlenecks. Yes, so some of it is we're using... man, I could talk about this stuff for days, and we can't today. Yes, we do have an idea where some of the things are. This is like me nerd snipe stuff. I would love to talk to about you for an hour. So immediate things that are on my list are when you have lots of creatures, even if they're standing still, they do things every frame which they don't need to be doing. There's a whole bunch of time we can save there. There's a whole bunch of time. One of the places we tend to squeeze performance out of on the CPU side is when we're using just object-oriented type approaches, game object kind of things. Navigating across many game objects is much slower than bringing data together in some kind of native collection and then doing things in a batch. Just that always improves things. Yes, so we'll be improving that on the creatures. For longer term, the lighting system needs to be reworked because Unity's lighting, if we don't need to cast shadows, which is the case for all the tiles and props, then there are things we could do with Unity as it is today, injecting our own stuff to do clustered light rendering, which would speed up things a lot because currently now it's a draw call for every single light. Oh, so many things. It's great. Yes, there's lots of things, and yeah, I'm gonna stop. But yes, I've got a list of things I'm working on for the Mac release to get that acceptable, and then we're gonna go from there. And those things in general should help across all platforms for now.
A lot more dots.
What's that?
A lot more dots.
More
More dots.
Orientalism asks, could the BR team please consider adding auras in vanilla official TaleSpire at some point? The mods for it look awesome, but tend to break with updates. Make sure there's a feature request for it, man. Definitely link to the kind of implementations you like to see. Then we can see it and answer your question better. Any plans for Fog of War? Yes, absolutely. The stuff we've been saying above. That's Risen 1998. Cheers. Makera is, will there be a way to follow the group of dice that has been generated? Follow the group of dice that have been generated. I'm not entirely sure what that means.
Maybe you throw them and then it just like
and they go too far, go find them. Yeah, maybe. Like
that.
If that's
that
what you
was a
meant,
thing in the very beginning,
Uh-huh.
like the first versions, when the you sort of, at least when it landed, the camera would go there. It just was incredibly jarring. So even if we sort of like made it really easy to get out of it, like if you were moving your mouse and stuff, it wouldn't do it. But maybe it could, maybe it could be a mode or something. I don't know, but not something that's planned at the moment.
Uti says, Ariane, the dev blogs are doing a great job of keeping us in touch with your work. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Like this whole experience of working with the community is wild, and it's intimidating, and it's rewarding, and it's a lot. And yeah, we're really glad to have you. And also, we always think we're doing a terrible job, so that is lovely to hear. Yeah, I feel bad every time it's been like a week and I haven't said anything, and I'm just like, yeah, that's really cool. Any plans? This is Risen 1998 again. Any plans for the ability to group slabs, assign a name, be able to move it as one object even after placing? Allow a cart to move and us. Oh yeah. So yes, via subboards. How appropriate that's going to be for small objects, we'll see. Yeah, we'll give it a go. Maybe there's a need to bake something into a different kind of object. It's something we've mused over in the past, but it's not something we're looking at now because we think subboards should handle some of these cases. Also, slabs as things in a library is also going to be coming. With the ability to import assets, do you think a focus on features and integrations would create a more efficient game growth? The ability to import assets affects kind of more niche. It affects art coming into the game, content coming into the game. It doesn't. It actually doesn't change the art roadmap that much, and it doesn't change the feature roadmap because again, it's separate stuff. So no, I don't think that changes roadmaps. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is one of the coolest things. But as far as what we're doing, it doesn't really change anything at all.
Yeah, we still have to make sure that the game out the box, like the V1 version of the game that you get out of the box kind of thing, is a full experience that's there. So we have to deliver that. And mods just make it all that much better. Just so cool. What's the expected load and performance on Mac? Macs have a history of overheating, and I believe one of the new M2 MacBooks didn't have passive cooling. A flag for such cases would be nice. That I honestly don't know. We bought ourselves first gen M1 iMacs, so that's our reference implementation. We're not doing Intel. Looking at the Steam statistics, already 50% of the gaming Mac population are on Apple Silicon, and it just the bandwidth. Trying to target the older machines we're a niche of a niche of a niche. We believe in getting TaleSpire onto multiple platforms, but when you look at the percentage of you folks who are on those platforms, it is small, and obviously, like I mean, as gaming community, and obviously that is impacted large part by not as many games being there. So I understand that the stats aren't a full picture, but we can't afford to do the older Macs right now. I'm hoping that by targeting M1 and trying to make things feel nice on there, we do well on the later Macs. As for the kind of overheating and stuff, I just don't know. I guess we find out together on this one. We can't really afford to be buying all the Apple products as much as they would love us to spend all the money.
The version of Mac going out initially is going to be more of a beta thing because we will have to explore that version as people start using it.
Yeah. Speaking specifically on performance for Mac right now, the big hurdle there right now is just the amount we're rendering. I'm trying to squeeze down on the CPU side because it's easy for me to tackle, and it helps all the laptops, all the Windows laptops as well as the Mac. But we will have to look into more techniques for the rendering side, but that tends to be a bigger job. Things like GPU occlusion culling and stuff like that. LODs. Yeah, there's details. I'm going to go on forever if I do that. Tanabe asks, what is it you look forward to the most? What is it you look forward to the most to release of what you're currently working on? Yeah, what are we currently most looking forward to releasing?
Of the stuff currently being worked on, I guess personally, the Hero Creator is a big one.
Yes. Yeah.
Also,
same.
Ships, I think, is going to be exciting.
Ships are 100%. Ships. Any kind. Yeah, ships. The character creator, expansion on, of course, like the dice stuff with like dice macros or anything like that. That's a huge one. I would love to see. All that. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's being worked on, but I guess like, if you like the most one right now for me personally is the character creator, because when you make something like a pauldron or a helmet that has so much value right now. If I create a helmet for a character, it's on one character unless I want to put it on another character. In which case, if you have unique minis, it's not So I'm looking forward to working and doing my part on the character creator once Johnny is has something that that I'm able to actually step in and start making some assets for. That is going to be super fun. And just to see like that work is pretty cool. I'm going to be looking forward to that.
And for my answer, I'm going to kind of punt by saying I don't know. I just want to stop feeling like I'm I'm so terribly behind on everything. So the more I get, everything I release just feels like I haven't fucking let somebody down. I'm just trying to just get this. I want to make good stuff and get it to the community, just because we've promised a lot, and it's we can do it, but there's no proof we can do it until it's done, and it's that gets intense sometimes. Are you sorry, this is Thunder DK74. Are you going to fix the bumpy mouse scroll in the changelog after clicking on the campaign and scrolling with the mouse all the way down? Do you have some kind of bug reporting page thing? Yes, we absolutely do have a place to report bugs. Check out feedback.talespire.com. We have done a bad job of keeping up with bugs. That is changing. We have someone looking at that now, and those are the kind of things. Please, yes, absolutely, report it or upvote the one that's already there. That's super cool. Did I mention I'm quite new to these streams? Oh, then welcome. Hey, good to have you here. Sidaron says, can you put some UI consideration for links to education YouTube videos or references to the board sites? As stated above, it was hard to find Tales Tavern when I got started, and that kept me from digging into the tool at the beginning. That is fair. Like hopefully we can do. There's a lot of like first user experience stuff that we want to work on. We'll get there. Maybe that does. Yeah, we can talk about that off stream. Sorry, there's some interesting stuff there.
It's a good question, and I think it warrants some conversations internally.
Yes. Risen 1998 asks, Dimension 20 has custom sky map Ivan stars. Any plan to implement that soon?
It's already in there. You can select a skybox like a starscape. What is it called?
I think it's like space.
Space, I think it's just called space. So if you go and select the sky and you select space, then that's what you get.
And Pytelekvi, sorry. I've been checking hard, and there is no VTT in the marketplace that covers Cthulhu /1920s Art Fantasy and Cyberpunk assets, and content is finished. Would you be interested in developing in that field? Cthulhu is one of my favorite role-playing games out there. Thank you. Regards to assets, I'll give the general answer first, which is regards to assets, we're interested in lots of things. Please put requests and update requests that are already there in the asset requests section of feedback.talespire.com. And anyone want to chip in on that before I rattle on?
No, just like you said, if you guys got asset requests, please do request them and get them upvoted.
Yeah, I should say that it is a setting that I really enjoy personally. Yeah. So would be incredibly fun to do. That's all. And it is awesome. It is something that not a lot of VDTs cover, so that's of interest.
And then JO7 SJ asks, any update on the foam tile? I'd love it so it feels similarly sometimes. So foam tiles in the game currently versus the foam tile feature that we mentioned a long time ago is how we're going to do terrains and stuff like this. The terrain system version of foam tiles is evolving. The foam tiles that are there, I don't think we have any plans to expand on that set right now.
No, as in the foam tile is a bit of a relic, but it was it's an experiment and will give an idea of what the future tile system, not the tile system, the terrain system will sort of look like appearance wise, although a very, very sort of small part of that. And that's just sort of like the surface and things.
Oh yeah, the fact that it's world space.
Well, and the fact that it's sort of more, it looks more like flocking and things like that rather than the plastic tiles that we have for everything else.
Nice. Just to clarify, the terrain system is going to allow shapes, not just squares. Yep. Any plans to add more character models, such as new Spelljammer races? We're always adding more stuff, and we're going to keep adding it. We're, as I say, influenced by your requests. So please request stuff.
The more specific, the better.
Yep. Ocean Lord, damaged ship parts for when we inevitably have ship fights, ? Or would that be its own pack? When an asset pack comes out, it's definitely not the end of the story. So yeah, request it. That would be really good. We all, again, expanding on existing packs is cool. The Mind's Eye says, I'm not a TaleSpire builder yet. Sorry, I'm wordsing. I'm not a TaleSpire builder just yet, but I'm seriously considering it. I want to say that your idea has massive potential. Thank you very much. And I'm interested in seeing where this goes. So I'm getting ready to start physically building my world, so I'm interested in TaleSpire. Two things I've seen that cause all sorts of major distress are wheels/round assets that can be used for vehicle wheels, steering wheel, and being able to rotate something on the Z-axis. Any plans for those two? We haven't addressed wheels directly, but we have talked about the idea of asset orientation earlier in the thing. Yeah, keep them requests coming. I haven't heard any like we're doing wheels announcements internally, so
we are currently at midnight here in Norway, by the way. So I think let's go for 5 more minutes.
Sure. Okay.
And then see how many of these we can get out. Really appreciate all of these questions.
Yeah,
these we just need to sleep soon.
Yeah, I will. If you folks don't, just to let you know, actually, I'm going to just about to say, if you don't mind, I'm not actually going to give an option. I'm going to skip things to do with asset packs because the answer is basically the same. Of just like, if it's about, are you planning on doing this kind of pack in the future, like agent style asset pack? The answer is we're open to lots of things. Please request them. Can we get a regular? Oh, that's straight into an asset one. Let me just. Okay. Will the creature shader tint happen? Yes. Have you guys considered a player seat option, temp seats? Absolutely. It's something we're actively looking into. We have some ideas of how we can do that while still being an early access in Steam. Yeah.
Steam makes it difficult right now, is sort of, and we have to find ways to do it with Steam.
Yes. Okay. Done. Okay. With plans to save the initiative order, any plan to save text chat logs as well? Not this time, no. Auto build, a way to fill in a room, automatic that you build. Auto build, like, so we're thinking about experimenting with dragging out walls and things like this and having like connecting walls. Any kind of AI automatic filling, no plans for that at all.
There might be experiments with blueprints and things like that that I wanted to do, but which sort of covers that, but no promises.
I'll skip the weather question one because we've covered that before, but thank you for that question. Is there a technical challenge when taking existing asset? Oh no, so this is something we covered before actually. Reusing existing assets and things like this. Is inventory a thing for the near future? I think so. I don't know how near you mean by near. I could say that our near future, like right now over the coming months, we've all got tasks that we're kind of working on. So I don't see us squeezing in inventory specifically in there, but we are active. Like we've been talking about it in the last week. So it is not lost to the sands of time. That's for sure. Probably a dumb question, but macOS support will include cross-platform PC Mac capability, correct? 100%, yeah. Like you can do Windows Linux right now. Will there be 3D model integration tool like with HeroForge currently through the plugins? So we do. Oh right, yeah, that's creature modding and stuff like that. Yes, and then tile modding and prop modding later down the line. Integrated character sheets, something we'd still love to do, but we are not there yet. I'm sorry for scrubbing through these fast, but yeah, I want to get to as many as possible. If you held this Twitch chat in 2 or more years, what you hope you'd be talking about? That's a lovely question that deserves a rich answer, and we can't give it to you in 2 minutes. Any question? Another question relating to Tailweaver. How extensive could this system be? I know it allowed tiles, props, minis. What about music, ambient? Like, I mean, Tailweaver is how we get music into the game right now. We'd like to, especially music. We want that to be more flexible than having to bake all these things into assets and ship them. It would be nice to be able to do that kind of stuff on the fly, and it is something I have talked about internally in the last month with our backend type person. That's not a it's being worked on yet. That's a like we're thinking about it, as in something we want to do. But yes, Tailweaver, the stuff that we bring into the game, we want you to be able to bring into the game. I have a very specific question. Will character sheets come out in the first 6 months of 2023? I wouldn't place money on it. No, I wouldn't place money on that. Just because of all the other things we want to get you. I want to get on the terrain system as well, as soon as we can. I was curious if we're going to see more emotes, attack spells. 100% you are. Sky, do you guys ever talk about what you might want to work on sometime in the distant future beyond TaleSpire? We absolutely do. Again, great question. But if we hadn't run out of time. There's so many. Would there be a way to get performance boost tech like NVIDIA DLSS to work with TaleSpire? Yeah, there's definitely options there. I haven't looked into that one specifically. But yeah, there's a lot we can do on performance before we look at those as well. But that's not to say we can't do them concurrently. Will we be able to hide map lists from the players? Yes, I'm thinking about doing that very soon. I've got to add a server flag for that. Many RPGs rely on vision and light as core game mechanics. Is there plans to allow increasing the radius of our minis' torchlight or the radius in which our minis can detect other minis?
Not immediately.
Not immediately. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we've got to 6 minutes now, so I was able to rattle through that many. I would love to keep going, but I people should.
Well, I mean, we do have. Okay, so I'm gonna just we can just disable that bot. So the bot is gonna leave. Nope. Okay,
shall I keep talking then?
Yeah, go for it.
Right. Okay. Orientalism. Can you do another TaleSpire D&D stream, like you did back in the day? Like, and they suggested with Astari. Hey, yeah, like that would be fun to do. They take a lot of time, a lot of prep and things like this to make like actual D&D streams happen. But I don't think any of us are against the idea. This might be a mini feature, but as you call it, but. Are there any plans to have varied light sources, such as having a player torch reach out by 6 squares? Same for static light sources. No immediate plans for changing on lights other than just making them a lot more efficient.
There are technical issues. That's why. So
yes, yeah, we would love to. Again,
it's not just because we don't want them. It's yes, yeah, it's technical.
Absolutely. Any plans on creating a play-only version of the game for a cheaper price? We're looking at seats. That's the only thing we're looking at doing. Creation should be. I won't get into that for now. But no. Hollow Fox, could the length of the line of sight be configurable? It's just tough. Everything you increase there is a massive computational add in all dimensions. So right now, no. There are other things for the future I'd love to talk about. JOS7SJ are there any ways to make tiles that are like a little puff of mist or cloud, like just a bunch of particles? We could, we probably wouldn't do that with a tile or prop specifically. But there are things we could do in future. It's getting, some of these answers are getting so vague. I'm sorry about that. That guy Baldrex, have you considered having subboards be freely rotatable so you can place them 100%? They're going to be freely rotatable. Maybe not in every dimension, but definitely spinny around that way, on a 45-degree angle and such. Maybe, yes, maybe. It would be so cool for a Zeppelin to go into to be coming down at an angle and stuff like that. There's no reason other than.
I mean, there's plenty of reasons why that's.
There's plenty of reasons we can't do it. Sorry, yeah, that's it's hard to make that play experience good. Yeah, sorry.
But it would be incredibly cool. But yes, there's reasons.
Yeah. This is why I shouldn't answer things fast, because I say yes when I shouldn't. Sobiak, is there a reason why the camera won't zoom all the way into the pivot point? Being able to do so will allow people to do the first person. That's not a way to make a good first person experience. Is my blunt answer. We will be working on making playing experiences better, though, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
Junisaur, is it possible for doors to trigger hide volumes? Not yet. But we want to look at certain kinds of board level scripting in the future. I'm not sure what that will entail, but definitely triggers and stuff like this. Good evening. Good evening. Are you still working on Tailweaver? Yes. or other ways to upload simple models. Yes. Is there a device clear timer possible? Actually, that's something we've talked about. We just haven't started doing it yet. But yeah, definitely something we're thinking about. Is it there a possibility that we get a setting slider to set the default size of icons for assets? It always resets to medium when switching between assets, props, and monsters. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's probably a bug actually. So
Yeah,
that's something we should fix.
We will fix that. Yeah. Genghis, there's a few asset ones there, so I'm gonna have to skip you, my dear. And then we get to Thunder DK74. Oh, we're at the end. Are you adding some kind of label to objects where the software would be able to have some kind of filtering system, for instance, to search for tavern, and then you could get the chairs and tables together? But you can already search by tags on there, so I might be misunderstanding the question, which is quite possible because I'm rushing.
It's possible that we have to be better at some doing
tagging
some general tags.
Yeah. We could revisit tags, before V1 and just go through all the assets, make sure that everything makes sense.
All right, folks. Well, I mean, I'm sorry the last ones were very rushed, but we got them all in, so that's really cool. Yeah.
And for all of the asset ones, just request them once again. More specific, the more specific they are, and the more people upvote them, the more chances for us to sort of get them in there. And also, if there's really big ones that have a lot of if there's one ticket that has a lot of assets inside of them, it's very difficult to cover all of those. So we're sort of more likely to be, if you have something specific, then we can sort of get it in more easily. So that's cool. So that's our stream for today. And it was incredibly nice for everyone to make it here and listen to us.
Thank you all for showing up.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. All right, then we will go away, and you will receive water sometime in the near future.
Yeah, I'll be pushing it out right after the stream. Everything is ready to go. I'm just going to boot it up one more time to make sure that I didn't break anything serious, and then I'll be pushing it out. And I'll be sticking around for another hour just in case something breaks heavily. It shouldn't, but you never know. And if there's any questions related to that, I'll try to answer those on Discord. All right.
Thanks so much, everyone. We will see you around.